Welcome back.
To Marriage Beyond the Veil.
Well, tonight is our final night,
Yep,
and we're going to talk about the decades.
the decades. Dun dun dun.
The decades. Okay, let's talk about the first 10 years.
All right, so we married in '89.
Okay.
First 10 years, '99. We had John.
Okay.
Started a business.
Mm-hmm.
So we started my business.
Moved to Georgia.
Moved to Georgia. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was the first thing we did.
Mm-hmm.
Fred and I, we got married. I was 24. He was 26, about to turn to the next year.
Okay.
And I remember John was born the day before our anniversary. He was born on the 17th. Our anniversary was on the 18th. And I remember telling my friend Kimberly Radwick, who baked cakes, I said, if I go into labor, bring a cake. And she did. She remembered. She brought a heart cake to the hospital so we could celebrate our anniversary.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And so that was, and you came and moved in with us. And so that was the first 10 years. And when did you move out? Okay.
Yeah, right. Next 20. Next 10. So we get to 20 years.
Yes.
So we've had the baby.
Yes, we've had the baby. And so for the next 20 years, worked on the business. The business grew. And then we had another one. So we had B. And business continued. Ministry started, and ministry actually started in the first decade.
Okay.
But the second decade, I would say, was more robust. I remember having the baby shower at Glen Haven.
Okay, I remember that.
And and then B was born, and so that was that decade. It was a lot going on. So you had the ministry, you had the business. I eventually went back to school. There was just a whole lot going on in those first 20 years. And you're really just beginning to sort of know each other. And remember, I have trust issues. So I was still struggling with the trust issues. But I trusted him enough to know that he was going to make sure I was going to be okay.
So as a couple, how did you feel like you grew in those 20 years? Like, what were the things that you were most proud about, and things you can remember that, like, you really saw this growth?
We began to work as a team.
Okay.
Because at first I felt like I had to do everything. We talked about that as well during our time together over last month. Just trying to be Superwoman, trying to do everything. And then there was that day that I passed out in the shop, and I was like, okay, enough. I need help. And so he took over taking care of the household stuff and even some of the things with the kids. Do you remember homeschool? Oh, yeah, I can homeschool. I'm going to homeschool, and ended up homeschooling. It was me. It wasn't Dad. Dad said he could do it, but it was too much stress on him. So, so that was the first 20 years.
Okay.
And so then we get to, to 2010.
So now we're 30 years of marriage.
And Sophie's, she's still relatively young, and this was when we went through some stuff.
Okay.
Those years were a little rough, because there was some growth, and then there was some time when Fred was trying some different things, and so that separated us and being in the same house, and so a lot fell on me.
Right.
And I felt abandoned. I felt left, and I think the kids did on some level too. Even though we were talking to him every day, he was checking in, and he sounded completely miserable. But the physical separation, not being there for the day to day, and that's when you really realize how much you rely on your partner.
Okay.
And so for people who are in the throes of getting a divorce, I understand. And this was a clear understanding for me. And I always had an appreciation for single women or for single moms, and dads, but it just blossomed even more so then, because I understood how much weight was on one person if you got to do everything for yourself and your children.
And how did you turn that around?
I just basically said, I was honest. I did not feel like this was something that God was calling us to do in this moment. There was a whole lot of chaos. And even to this day, we don't know. I think we probably sort of split on how each of us felt about that. But we made the decision that he would come back, and he did, and we moved forward. But then there was a period of time that there was still struggle.
Okay.
You know, so for 3 years there was a struggle, and but at the end of that, and in the midst of that, we still stuck it out, and I would still never allow anyone to say anything derogatory about my spouse, especially in front of my children. And for my children, I always wanted them to still have the same level of love and respect that they have for him, even though I know that it sometimes, especially for John, because he was older and he saw a lot more than we did, but just understanding that this is a growth, and that we too will get through this, and this shall pass. God's going to see us through, and he did.
And that's going to be a benefit to him in his marriage. You know, now that he's married and he has that history, and you guys led by example.
Yeah.
So, like, you never separated. You just stayed the course. And look at you now, 34.
34 years.
Hey, I got it right today. 34 years of marriage.
Yeah. And so here we are.
Yes. Yep. So thank you for letting me fill in and work with you this month. It's been fun. Time for me to go back to my regular gig.
I'm so glad we had this time together, just to have a laugh or sing a song. It seems just before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good evening.